Hello, beautiful audience. We're making some Canopic jars for our Egypt room, and this is going to be bad. What we have is in our masters we have separate heads, so that these can be small molds, and these won't be a problem. But then this guy right here, he is thinner than I would like him to be, just for toughness. So that means I want to try and resize the wall of this thing, and that's something. So what I need to do is make some sort of a core that will not be poured into this, and then some other way of creating probably a two-part mold that will capture all this surface detail, but have a smaller hollow core. I want this to be hollow for two reasons. We're actually designing this game and also its successor. So we're designing a prefab revamp so that we can change the theme either for Halloween or to literally just change the game, maintaining most of the props. So it's going to be a switchable game at some point in the future. And as part of that switchability, we're going to possibly want to put something inside one set of these Canopic jars. The other set will be empty. The initial set will be empty, but I need to make a provision for everything now so I don't end up having to make two molds, because this is going to be a lot of mold making. And then there will be squishy bits and stuff it'll be sealed in here, but when you do this, you'll hear something thumping around, kind of liquidy and gross. We've done some brainstorming, and we think we have a path forward.
It's not going to work, though.
She's probably right. To start out with, I'm going to use this PVC, acrylic tube as our outer mold wall. And I've got some of this laying around. It's a perfect diameter to give us about 1 inch. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but we're going to be doing this mold in dragon skin. It's a very soft silicone. We've noticed this going harder recently. This one's going to go soft. So I'm just going to rip this down on our table saw, and it's a interesting way to cut a tube and keep it square. So all I'm going to do here is use our square slide to slide the acrylic into place, and then I'm going to counterspin the acrylic on the blade to cut it. Don't roll it forward, roll it backwards, otherwise it will explode in your face. All right. First step, what I'm doing is I've cut a baseboard here. I've painted that with my dissolved wax release agent. And what we're going to do, if everything goes well, this is the initial plan. I am going to hot glue this dowel that I've cut off. It's 1 inch longer than the interior right here. I'm going to hot glue that in there, and then I'm going to glue that on there. And this is not my vacuum space or my void space that's going to be on the inside. This is simply a stand so I can get a cap on this. What we'll actually do later on is I'm going to cast a 3-inch PVC pipe with a cap on the end of it into there, and that will be the air space. So that'll be a sort of and we'll just lose a piece of PVC pipe every time we cast one, but who cares? So we're going to have this with this on top of it. This is just for the first half of the mold, and then this is the mold wall. We're only going to pour up to this bead line right here. So that's what we're going to use to hide our flash, or if there is any flash. That's the plan. I've crossed these two corners here to create a center point. The reason I need that center point is that I don't have that much margin on either side for my mold wall, so I need to keep that pretty well centered. And a release agent, 2 coats of this stuff. I really should have sprayed this earlier and brushed it on and then let it dry and then done another coat, but I didn't do that, so this will be good enough. As an indicator, I have mixed a little bit of silicone pigment in with this stuff, because both of these parts are actually very translucent. This is normally or often used for skins. So if you're doing an animal monster prosthetic, reptile, something like that, where you want that crepuscular translucency of the skin, it'll pick that up. So anyway, this is a relatively translucent silicone, and I'm doing this as a mixing indicator. Okay, screw up number one is I did not mix enough silicone to try and hit my level. I was making an educated guess based on the volume of this cylinder of height, but apparently I didn't get up to my height that I wanted, which was 1.75 inches. Actually, I got 2 here, but it should be, yeah. Anyway, I miscalculated. And the other thing is that this, the actual vessel on the inside, it is loose. So it popped off my hot glue, probably because I have made this mistake before, but I waxed this before I glued the other piece in place. So the glue was trying to stick to wax, which that's not a good idea. So to fix this, what I'm going to do is wait until tomorrow, and we'll come back and pour some more. But at that point, this bottom layer will have hardened, and hopefully it'll hold the dowel in place, so it'll stabilize it, and I can pour up to my desired level without it moving or floating the whole thing up, which would be a horrible failure. So that's the solution so far. All right, so I'm doing something a little unusual here. Actually, we're doing a lot of things that are a little unusual here, but the thing that I'm doing right now is I'm mixing up a fairly small batch of silicone. And this is something that, this is a technique that I know from life casting, where you're taking making a mold of a human, or some part of a human. So what I'm doing is I took my excess from this pour and I cut it into little cubes, and I'm going to use those cubes as keys. Normally we would put acorn nuts in clay or something, pour the first half, but this is a really weird pour, the way we're doing this. So what I'm going to do here is just glue keys on that are silicone, so those will stick, and that'll be our keying. Okay, so this is really interesting. Something I noticed, this is just an observation, but it's kind of cool and it's worth noting. I put a little silicone on here and then put the piece down, and if there's more silicone on this side of the piece, squooshed out from the edge, than there is on this side, then this little puddle of silicone right here tries to spread itself out just as it settles. But in doing so, it's migrating the little piece in towards the jar. So I'm keeping an eye on it to make sure that they don't actually start touching the jar or something like that. But they all did it. Wherever it was, whichever side had more silicone on it, that silicone, as it flowed down, it pushed the piece laterally, the little key. So this is going to be critical on this one. I am going to make sure I get a lot of mold release on this thing. And so to do that, I'm actually going to do 2 or 3 coats of mold release. This is Ease Release 200 from MANN Technologies, M-A-N-N. I'm going to do 2 or 3 coats on this thing, not just one, because there's a lot going on here, and I'm trying not to fail. There's other things that will fail. I'm going to let this dry for a second, and then I'm going to brush it with a little 2-inch chip brush, and then do it again. 2 coats will not be brushed. The first one certainly will be, though. I got to make sure I get it all up in here. The other thing is that we're going to end up having to do a brush up on this to begin with, because there are spots on this that I can see are going to catch a bubble, and I don't want that to happen, obviously. So I'll do a thin brush up coat, put the cylinder back on this thing, our mold wall, and then we'll pour more degassed silicone on top of that. This is going to happen. Also, we are going to, the second half of the casting, we're going to pour from the top. So I'm going to put a sprue on here. It'll be something like that, but shorter. All right, so I am mixing up yet another batch. This is our brush-on coat. I've got a little bit of silicone thinner in this, and I am also, I'll say that I'm doing each one of these in a different color so that it's a little bit easier for you to see what I'm doing, because I'm nice like that. So I'm going to brush this on with a chip brush. And I just want to show you, this is dragon skin, so it's really flexible, and it's also incredibly tear resistant and stretchy, which is the reason that I'm using this stuff for this mold. Now the one thing I want to do here is I don't want to get any silicone on the sides here, because I still have to be able to put my mold box back. It's the release agent that's doing it, I'm sure. That was exhausting. So that's my detail coat, and this should keep us from trapping bubbles in all these little crevices and stuff like that, because I've basically just eliminated all the crevices. We'll put our mold wall back and then mix up another batch and pour that on top of this. And I don't think I'm going to wait for this to cure. It doesn't really matter. It should work. Fingers crossed. Well, no, it probably won't work. So I was smashing my mold wall back down and trying to get it all the way to seat and put hot glue around it and stuff like that. And Honor says, do we actually need the mold wall to go all the way down, considering it's sealing against the silicone? And I was like, no, that's fine. So every once in a while, most of the time I'm an idiot. That's what it comes down to. It looks tasty. Cure time on this stuff is an hour and a half, but we added a little bit of thinner to it, if you remember. So that's going to extend the cure time, so probably 2 hours, maybe 3, just to be safe. Okay, it's demold the mold time. So what I did was actually, I took a Dremel tool and I ran it up here just to make a score line so that I can, hopefully this works. I'm going to close my eyes because I'm not wearing safety glasses. Okay. Put glasses on. Yep. It's just that easy. This is easily the largest silicone mold that I've ever made. I am going to pull this sprue off, or there's our little sprue maker dowel thing here. All right. And then we can pull our core back out. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, that's not bad. That is correct. Scared me for a second there. There's the bottom of our mold. Break that guy out. This actually looks like it's going to release pretty easily. I've got enough mold release on there. Original out. So, there's our beautiful core. That's really nice. And then here's the other half. So we'll have to figure out how those two things go back together. And let's see. There's two close keys over here. So it is like this. Woo! All right, now, pouring this thing is still going to be weird because we have to be able to get a 3-inch piece of PVC capped pipe in there. I'm not going to use an actual PVC pipe cap. I'm probably just going to put a piece of sheet PVC on the end, and then we'll trim it off. Because the extra knobby volume of the PVC pipe is unnecessary. We'll figure it out. So I used displacement of air to make the bottom of this mold, because the mold wasn't touching the bottom. It was floating off the bottom, but if I pour silicone around this thing, the air that's trapped inside here will keep the silicone from going in. So that's how we did that. And that's all integral to my probably going to fail plan. What I'm going to do now is use the same principle to measure the volume of this as a solid. So I've got 80 ounces of water here, and I'm going to push all that down. Lost a little bit. It's going to come in right at 132. So 132 minus 80 is my solid volume. But that's not the final number I need. So the number that I need is subtracting this, because this won't be cast, or this solid. It's actually going to the bottom, so I'll add a few. This is going to be about 94. Sorry, 94 minus 80, which is 14. So this is 14 ounces right here. So that tells me roughly how much resin I need. The problem, though, is that it's going to be done in 2 different pours. So there's more stuff I got to do. I got to figure this out. We're all screwed. And that is, let's call it 10 ounces.
10 ounces.
All right, so the first batch will be 10 ounces. The next batch will be, what is it, 38? Yeah, 38. The next batch will be 28 ounces. So first 10, then 28. Now we know what to do. All right, so I've put a little bit of brass powder in here. We're going to do this as sort of a hodgepodge, weird, half on, half off cold cast, which means I'm using actual metal powder. This is brass powder, so that'll be buffable in the end. And I'm just going to tap this around here to kind of hit some of the details. Here, I'll see if we can do this on camera. And then I'm going to dump that out, the majority of it, whack that. And then I'm going to pour this into the other half of our mold, along with some other. Piece of paper, don't forget that when you're doing this, because otherwise you basically lose all of your metal powder. And this jar right here is it's not cheap. It's not crazy expensive in the end game, but you know it all adds up. So I've got my mold halves dusted, and I am about to mix these 2 things of resin, put this in place, actually, and then I'm going to hold this down, pour my resin, and then Anna is going to come in and place a weight on top of this, and it should be the beginning of what we call a failure cascade. Okay, so this stuff has a 10-minute cure time, and so we won't have long to wait to see what the hell happened. So my mold is so heavy, I probably don't need to put anything on top of this. By the way, I have mated up my mold, and it's all beautifully seated. After I pour this resin, I will probably just take this bucket. It's just it's like a half a pound, and I'll put that on top just to kind of make sure we maintain that seal. I wouldn't do that if that seal were closer to the top, but considering it's down at the bottom, I've got that hydraulic pressure working against me. So now I'm gonna venture forth. Because we are using metal powder, I don't want to use just a clear resin. This is not heavily colored, but it's black. So it should show well, and it's just like when you do a chrome paint. The best thing to do, you start with gloss black first, then you spray your chrome on top of that. If you just start spraying chrome onto something that's blue or yellow or whatever, it never gets the shininess, and I'm not even sure why exactly all that happens, because, well, whatever. Anyway, just to be safe, I mixed up 32 ounces instead of 30. And we'll see what kind of volume is left over to find out if we're correct. But I'd rather be able to make this pour in one shot rather than, well, I'm going to screw this up, I can tell you. All right, I'm going to pause here and slap it. Damn it. Yeah, I'm going to need, yeah, I'm definitely short. Probably eight ounces short. Because there was an off-camera emergency where we mixed up another 12 ounces of resin, and it turned out it needed another 7. So we'll call that 8, and we'll add that to our thing. So that'll actually be 40 ounces of resin. Again, trying to do all this weird volumetric stuff. It should have worked. I don't know why it didn't, but these things happen. So whatever comes out of that mold, momentarily, I'm going to show you, even if it's a complete fail. Moment of truth. Okay, so, derp. All right, well, here's the problem, which is not a problem, is that we poured this bottom section first, and we had our gold powder on it, and when we poured the second bit in, it crept around the gold powder, so I have this color change, but it looks cool, so that's totally viable. And then this stuff right here, so all I'm doing is giving this a good going over with some steel wool, and it's polishing up that brass that we have embedded in the surface, and makes it look gorgeous, frankly. All of our Canopic jars and their heads and everything else will have to get polished out this way, and then we're going to bond the tops of the jars to the lower portions with urethane resin. So this happened. These are our head molds. We just used the buckets as a mold wall, and because we waxed the board before we hot glued the wall down, the hot glue didn't stick very well, and this happened. So even though I have made this mistake multiple times, don't you make it, because it's kind of an expensive mistake. So our Canopic jars came out beautifully with recess in here for resin saving, and also to make it not weigh 80 pounds. They're gorgeous, but they don't have lids. So we made dump molds for the lids. We've got, and these are already dusted with brass powder right now. So here's Anubis. We'll backfill those with black resin, but Anna had a fantastic idea. She said, hey, why don't we take all of our sprue cutoffs and trash and stuff like that and dump it in there, and that'll save resin too. So we have just like little sprues and pore holes, stuff that has to be cut off when we make molds. Here's an insert shot. And we'll just use that to dump in there and save some resin. Well, that's it. They look fantastic. What we've done is these are separate, and because of the way we've made the mold, we can use that same mold to make these with contents, or what we're going to do in this case is actually just glue these heads down onto the bases. That one's full of dice. You'll never see it because it's going to be glued down, but yeah, so I'm happy. And our mold will be usable for different purposes, like I said. In this case, I'll just say that these are a major plot point driving force. Each one of these is a large step in gameplay. You'll have to go to Alaska to do it yourself if you want to figure the rest out. I have to go work on our baboon-headed tote statue, so I'm going to get back to work. And we'll actually film that for you, and you'll see that soon. So enjoy. One other thing, if you stayed to the end, what did you make today? I want to see pictures of your work, and what we'll do is we'll start posting that in future videos. So if you have work that you want to show, then send it to me and say that you want it to be shown. If not, if it's private for some reason, something like that, but you still want to share it with me, send it to me, and we'll honor your request.